Well, men in Stars Hollow really ain't literally apart from Luke, it is slim pickings. Hey, I'm Bridget and I'm back. Let's just get straight into the messy recap. If you're So Max came back, yay, and he and Lorelai appeared to be pretty solid, and Max made them a fancy meal in his fancy apartment on his teacher's salary, which Lorelai refused to eat at the big girls' table. Paris's parents are getting a divorce, and this becomes the talk of Chilton. Lorelai gets cold feet about Max, but doesn't have the guts to break up with the man herself. Parents' Day arrives at Chilton, and Paris Geller's mum behaves demonically and leaves before it begins. Lorelai turns up to Parents' Day and uses the opportunity to not check up on Rory's progress or grades, but to instead make out with her teacher in his classroom after saying she was going to break up with him. Paris happens to walk past and see this and tells the entire school, which Rory then schools her about, to which Paris immediately apologises. Rory and Lorelai have an argument about it. Max does eventually break up with Lorelai after realising that what they did was insanity, and Lorelai is left crying in a heap after the whole ordeal.
And that's what you missed on
Gilmore Girls. So a dry Pop-Tarts and coffee is really a nutritious breakfast, is it, Lorelai? After the stunt you pulled last episode, you should be making Rory a full English breakfast and grovelling for her forgiveness. So Lane's back, yay! Rory and Lane are going through Lane's impeccable music taste. She's got some new CDs. And why am I not surprised? It is our girl Lane after all. She can do no wrong. Yet. So as well as running an inn, making ball gowns in her spare time, being a mother and menace to society, Lorelai is also on some business course and studying for a test. So the girls listen to music. Lorelai burst in with a monologue about how she's trying to study for this test. She really needs to pass the test. And the girls are like, absolutely fine, we'll turn the music down. Obviously, all she needed to say was turn the music down. She didn't need to launch into a monologue, but Lorelai will be Lorelai. And yes, for those wondering, I am indeed still irritated at her for the stunt that she pulled at Chilton with Max Medina. So it turns out Lane has a crush on Dean's friend, Todd. Now, judging by Dean, I cannot imagine nor fathom that this guy is going to be anything to write home about, but I guess time will tell. Lane wants Rory to ask Dean to ask Todd out on Lane's behalf. Rory does not look particularly enthused about this. Now, at first I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's Dean's friend, so she's probably like, I need to protect my friend Lane. But then she says that she's never actually met Todd. So what is the reluctance there? Look, if you don't rate your friend, just say you don't rate your friends. And if you don't rate your friend, are you even friends? To be fair, Lane is acting a little bit neurotic, and it is giving a little bit desperate considering she doesn't really know this guy. But she's a teenager. In my head, she should be like, warning, warning, Dean's friend may cause severe irritation. Now, another person who is serving severe irritation is, of course, Lorelai, who comes back into the room and has now decided that the music is too quiet and could they please turn it up? This woman. I think I replied to a comment where I said that basically the things that I don't like about Lorelai are the things I don't like about myself. So I'm willing to take the L on that. God, am I Lorelai? Because if so, just end me now. Anyway, Rory reluctantly agrees to set Lane up with Todd.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Yay, Michelle is back. So Lorelai is trying to study for her business qualifications at the inn. Look, get your qualifications, girl. Get your bag up. I love that for you. But also you have got a business already to run. In the kitchen at the inn, Suki is cooking up a storm as per. But let's run back this footage because these sous chefs are fine as hell. My God, where have they been hiding these men? Now, I know I'm not going to see them with any lines ever again, but Lord Father God, I said yes. Why can't they give these men lines instead of Jackson?
Inquiring minds want to know.
I want to know.
In fact, why can't the writers make Suki get with one of these guys? What do they have in common? Food? Work? Suki is definitely being done dirty. So Jackson comes in and has a very awkward conversation with Suki. Now, remember before when Suki asked Jackson out? Well, they still have not arranged to go on a date together and it's giving long. But also, why is it Suki's prerogative to arrange the date? She should not have to solidify the date because she already did the asking. Jackson should be one to make the plans. But this is coming from a man who dresses like this. So game was never going to be his strong point. Let's be for real. Anyway, Lorelai convinces Suki to call him him, and she calls him, but unfortunately gets his answer machine and then just starts rambling a whole heap of nonsense. Relatable. Be so for real. Rory is not reading this. Anyway, get you a girl that can do both, because as we know, Sylvia Plath is somewhat of a feminist writer, and Rory is reading this whilst waiting for Dean to get out of school, giving trad wife. Lucky Dean. I'm sorry, I just don't like these two together. I don't really have any solid reasons. There's just something about them that I just don't feel. I don't vibe. I don't even know how to justify it. Like the way that Dean won't stop kissing her.
Okay, stop.
Sorry.
No, stay.
Why?
No and stop are complete sentences, sir. She said stop. Anyway, Rory's asking Dean if he'll set Lane up with Todd, and Dean looks uncomfortable about this. But to be fair, I think he's just being honest and pretty diplomatic. He just doesn't see it for the two of them. But Rory is under strict instruction from Lane, so I guess she's being a good friend by insisting that Dean just do what she has asked him to do. Why do I get the feeling that this is going to end so badly? Back at the inn, and the good news is Jackson said yes to the suggestion of dinner from Suki, but the bad news is his cousin Rune is staying with him this weekend. So Suki comes up with a brilliant idea of them going on a double date with Lorelai, but she actually doesn't tell Lorelai until she's already made the suggestion. Now, usually I would think that was out of order to commit someone to a double date without asking their permission, but it's Lorelai, so I'm good.
Oh, shut up.
Look, Lorelai owes Suki big time. Lorelai is seemingly wedded and attached to these silky satin shirts. And do you know what? I don't hate it for her. So while Lorelai is doing Suki's makeup, Suki is freaking out. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, she really likes Jackson. And Lorelai is doing a very good job, I will give her that, of calming her down. Meanwhile, Rory and Lane are getting ready for their double date. Obviously, Mrs. Kim is kind of strict, so Lane can't tell her that she's going on a double date. So she's thinking up excuses that she can say to get away with going on this date. Now, Rory doesn't really want to not tell Lorelai because obviously their relationship is pretty close. They tell each other most things, although there's been several episodes where that has not been the case. So they decide that it's just going to be a case of we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
This is not going to end well.
And both the girls look super cute. Suki also looks super cute makeup-wise, but I'm going to need her to take that hair down. The hair needs to come down several steps. So Jackson knocks on the door to pick Suki up. And honestly, I miss those days when dates would come and call for you. I mean, why am I acting like that ever happened to me? Absolute lies. I imagine it must be nice. Your date picks you up from your house at a scheduled time. None of this texting going, I'm going to be 7 minutes late. Obviously, on a first date, there is absolutely no way to hell I'd be giving somebody my home address. It's a nice idea. And also, this is a small town, so everybody knows where each other lives anyway. Anyway, Jackson and Suki both seem hella nervous.
Suki. Hi.
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 Jackson's cousin, Rune, on the other hand, seems hella rude.
That's Lorelai?
Yes.
Did you see how tall she is?
No, I haven't noticed, actually.
How could you not notice? She's like a basketball player.
I once went on a date with a guy who was like, oh, you're actually tall. Sir, no, you are small. Anyway, Rune is going in on Lorelai, and it's a lot. So they're in this fancy restaurant, and Rune is just staring Lorelai out. Like, he's like, how am I here with this beast? And I'm like, damn.
What size shoe do you wear?
Like, she's literally Bigfoot. Nah, this guy would be getting a... Lorelai, to her credit, still attempts to make polite conversation, but he is an At the other double date, the kids are queuing up to go in for a movie night. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. This bookshop turned movie cinema thing is so cute. This is the kind of that makes me want to pack up and move to a small town. Anyway, so Lane and Todd. It's giving absolutely nothing in common and nothing to say to each other. Well, to be fair, Lane is trying to make conversation. She's asking questions, but Todd is mute. I'm going to give him points for his outfit though. Jacket, 10 out of 10. The shirt was great, but then it turns out that he actually borrowed it from his sister. But that's okay because he had the good sense to put it on. Also, okay, I'm going to give him another point because he does look like a young Owen Wilson, don't you think? And I love Owen Wilson. So as I was saying, Lane is trying to bring him in by having, you know, normal conversations, human interaction type things, but the lights are on and nobody's home. Lane girl, you don't need this. So Rory overhears their dry conversation and she's like, Dean, like, this is your friend. This is your boy. Like, and Dean's like, do you know what? He's He's really not my boy. We work on our bikes together. I don't know him like that.
I don't know who this man is. Sorry to this man.
And to be fair, Ondine, I get it. We've all got those friends who you just do a little something with, but you're not going to kiki and go for coffee with them. That's my book club friend. That's my I need advice on washing up powder friend. That's not my friend. Back at the restaurant with the adults, and Rune is still being a nightmare. Suki is overcompensating by talking loads to Lorelai but not to Jackson. But to be fair, what chat is Jackson bringing to the chat? Because it's all very well and good to be annoyed that your date is talking to her friend, but what conversation have you tried to start? He's just sitting there staring into the abyss. So Lorelai pulls Suki away from the table and has a little chat with her, and she's like, you need to start focusing on Jackson. Again, why is the onus on Suki to hold court? She's done the asking. She's done the picking of the date. She's picked the venue. She's found another date for your rude cousin. All Jackson needed to do was turn up and make conversation, and he has failed on all counts. Suki girl, you can do better than this. It's a small town, I know. I've given you 1-2 options now. Anyway, Lorelai also recognises that all this fuss of the fancy restaurant is not really a bit of them, so she suggests that they all go to Luke's diner and just order burgers from there instead, which sounds like a good idea. Not least of all because Luke will be there, hopefully. Okay, Miss Lane, I love you, girl, but your first strike is coming up. Talking in a movie theatre. This is one of my biggest crimes against humanity. I don't mind the occasional lean in, speak softly, share a little joke, keep it cute, keep it moving. But a whole conversation. If I was that woman sitting next to them, it's on. The other day, I went to watch Wicked, and my viewing experience was absolutely destroyed by the rudeness of people. I had one girl next to me texting in the entire movie. 2 people in front of me were drunk and were kept getting up, chatting like they were in their living room. Why did you buy a £15 ticket if you wanted to talk like it was your living room? Stay home. I am trying to watch Cynthia Erivo body Alphabet, and you are ruining it for me.
Don't f*** with me, fellas!
Anyway, Todd finally becomes unmute and gives Lane something when she asks him what his favourite movie is. Now, he says Beethoven, and Lane seems kind of unimpressed. And I've got to be honest, what's wrong with Beethoven? So the adults end up at Luke's, and Lorelai is explaining to Luke at the bar that she's on a double date with an absolute and here comes Luke giving yet another example of why he is my chosen life partner. He loves tall women. Add that to the list. He is also loving that Lorelai is hating her date. So Rune is being a again, and he says he's bored.
Well, I didn't really want to be here, so I was made to be here. So obviously I'm just like wanting to get this over with and get on with my life. This is a big inconvenience for me.
And he wants Jackson to go bowling with him. Now explain to me why Jackson is sitting there like a mute. Where is this man's backbone? Jackson is incapable of doing anything. Dressing well, organising a date, speaking up for Suki, getting rid of his cousin. Lorelai's at the bar with Luke, and honestly, get you someone who looks at you the way Luke looks at Lorelai, because damn. They end up playing cards at the bar, and it is so wholesome. And finally, Suki and Jackson are actually starting their date and enjoying each other's company. Yay. So Luke is just about to finally ask Lorelai out when...
Where are the girls? Lane said she's with you and Rory. Slow down. I call, no answer. I think they're a video store. I call again, no answer. I call third time, no answer.
You had a lot of time on your hands today.
I have to know what girls are.
I said earlier that Lane told Mrs. Kim that she was hanging out at Lorelai's, but then told Lorelai that they were going to a movie. So Mrs. Kim is beside herself. She's like,
bring back my girls.
And yeah, I'm not going to lie, Mrs. Kim is kind of rude to Lorelai. So the movie finishes and the kids get out of the theatre and Lane is over it and over Todd. And we hear the dulcet tones of Mrs. Kim screaming at Lane from down the street.
Lane Kim!
Now, I told you this scene played out for me. My mum came looking for me that one time when I didn't tell her where I was going and she came down the street in her nightgown shouting for me. PTSD for real. I hate this for Lane, especially because this guy is not it. What a waste of a lie and a sneak out. Lorelai is obviously not super pleased with Rory either, because obviously she kind of lied, kind of omitted the truth. But she doesn't stay mad at Rory for long, because she overhears Todd calling her a babe and obviously uses the opportunity to be smug about that. So a few days later, and Lane is grounded, obviously, and Rory climbs a tree outside so that she can speak to Lane. Lane is being really mature about the situation, and she actually apologizes to Rory for putting her in that position where they had to not tell the whole truth to Lorelai. She's also really grateful to Rory because now she realizes that Todd is not it. But Todd, on the other hand, likes Lane and has been calling her. Let her be on the other side of unrequited love. To be fair, their friendship is lovely in this episode, and Rory did very well, so... So we're in Mrs. Kim's antique store, and Mrs. Kim has a you break, you buy rule, and this guy had to pay the price. Lorelai comes in the shop to try to explain to Mrs. Kim what happened the other night. And I guess also to explain that she is not a parent. But Mrs. Kim is not here for it. Lorelai's trying to tell Mrs. Kim that teenagers will be teenagers, I guess. And Mrs. Kim's like, not my teenager. What you do in your household is your business. What I do in mine is mine. Yeah, I have to agree with Mrs. Kim on this one. It is not your business to be in her place of business telling her how she should run her household. And Mrs. Kim says,
Don't want Lane to turn out like you either.
Well, damn. On her way out of her lecture, Lorelai accidentally breaks a vase, and go figure. So back at the diner, and Lorelai is celebrating an A- on her business test, so good for her, I guess. Also, I do love Lorelai's top. She changed it up. So Lane pages Rory, and I guess what Lorelai said to Mrs. Kim must have stuck a bit, because she allows Lane to leave the house, to walk to the end of the sign. Yay for Lane. So Luke comes over to speak to Lorelai and is clearly trying to finish what he started, i.e. asking her out. But he just can't seem to get the words out. And even though it's obvious to everyone, it's obvious to Lorelai, come on, Lorelai, you're a smart girl. You just got an A- on your test. She does not help him out any. And it ends with him not quite being able to say it. Oh, Luke. Rory was a very decent friend in this. Even though she was reluctant at first, she got Dean to help her friend out and even covered for her and took some flack from her mum, so up she goes. Lorelai was also a good friend in this episode. She agreed to help Suki out and had to endure a date with an absolute dick and encourage Suki whilst doing it. Suki was still great, but she didn't ask Lorelai's permission about a double date, so she has to come down a little bit. Lane was boy crazy without knowing the boy in question, but was also quick to apologise and accept her punishment from her mum, so she's only coming down a little bit. Mrs. Kim, though strict, just loves her daughter and wants her to be safe, and is probably one of the only people to call out Lorelai on her bullshit, so she's coming down a bit, but not a lot. Jackson was so irksome and did nothing to move his romance with Suki along, and still has bad dress sense, so down you go. Luke, honestly, I'm running out of good things to say about this man. Just slap a halo on him already. And that's that. I really enjoyed this one. It was pretty solid, and even though I didn't get my daily dose of Chilton or Paris Geller or indeed Emily Gilmore, I got more insight into how the Gilmore Girls can actually be decent human beings. Clap, clap for them. So I'll see you next week for more shenanigans. Okay, bye. If you want me to watch more of Gilmore Girls than ever before, subscribe.